Hi, everybody. This is Milo Silvestro from Fear Factory, and you're watching RichardMetalFan.
Hey, what's up, guys? Episode 214 of Richard Metal Fan Interviews, calling from Zoom, and I'm here with Milo Silvestro from Fear Factory. He also plays with Dead Channel, Null, and forget the other third band, which is
Skill Gear.
Skill Gear. For some, I forgot it for a split sec. So, how you doing today, man? Great to be able to talk with you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, man. And nice to meet you. And yeah, it's going awesome. I'm just back since last Sunday. I just got back here in Rome, and the tour has wrapped, and it's been an awesome tour. It's been a long tour. Uh, it's been like a 60-ish shows tour because we played 15 shows in America with Lacuna Coil, and then
Yeah, and I was at
straight
the
right
Atlanta
away
show.
Europe and yeah. Oh, you were in Atlanta show?
Yeah, I was like right there. I've actually met you
Nice.
and Dino right after y'all said you were at the merch.
Oh, at the merch. No way.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and that was actually funny enough, my first time ever seeing Fear Factory.
No way.
Yeah.
Did you like it?
Hell yeah. Yeah, that was a great show.
Nice.
Show I kind of wish it was longer though. I think you only played for like 40 minutes or so.
Yeah, because we were opening for Lacuna Coil, so we had only so much time. We had like yeah, not so much, but the guys from Lacuna actually gave us a little bit more time than an opening band usually gets. So I think it was 40 50 55 minutes probably. So
Yeah.
yeah, it could be
Yeah.
like 12 songs, 30 songs. Yeah.
Yeah, you had to like talk to them considering they're your fellow Italians.
Yeah, I it was great to hang out with them. They're great people, not just because they're Italians, but they're awesome people. All nice people, no egos, no, just very nice people.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah, it was very cool vibe on that tour.
yeah, that's great, man. Because that was like my fourth time seeing Lacuna Coil, and they definitely put on a really great show. Like
Oh yeah,
Christina, Andrea, and everybody was like really cool.
yeah, absolutely. And I've been following them since forever because they're the real Italian pride in metal because I think it's safe to say they're the biggest metal band from Italy.
Yeah,
And yeah, they deserve it because they're great, and they've been around for more than 20 years. So yeah,
yeah.
it
Well,
was
getting
super.
close to 30 years now. They've been around since as long as I've
Yeah.
existed.
Right. I mean, they were probably around uh since the mid 90s, I think, late
Yeah,
90s.
yeah. Their wiki said they formed in 94, so pretty much almost 30 years.
Right. Yeah, they're pretty veterans, and yeah, they're great. And it's great when you discover that those iconic, bands and artists are also very nice and humble people, and it creates a very great vibe for the tour. And so
Yeah. I always think the thought Italy has like a great metal scene with, of course, Lacuna Coil, but also like Flesh God Apocalypse, Hour of Penance, Hideous Divinity, probably a plethora of great bands. So I just think like you guys definitely just have a great scene over there.
well, you just said Howard Penance, right?
Hour of Penance, yeah, I actually
Well,
interviewed them a few months ago.
well, the bass player Marco Mastrobuono is a good friend of mine, and yeah,
Nice.
and I record. He actually produced. I know he tracked. I don't know if produced, but I'm sure he tracked the last two Flash God Apocalypse albums, and I recorded guitars for my other band Dead Channel in his studio, and he's a great guy, and yeah, our Penance are one of the most cool bands from Rome and death metal. So yeah,
Nice.
great player.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so kind of like the format is I want to sort of like talk about like your musical history and sort of like do a rundown of your discography. So to get back to young Milo Silvestro, so kind of growing up in Italy, what were the first bands that got you into metal and what made you want to be a vocalist?
Well, first of all, being born in a musical family where both my parents are professional musicians, it helped for sure, not just for wanting to be a vocalist, but wanted to be a musician in the first place and wanted to make a living out of it. So, but of course, they're not into metal. They're from another generation. So, but they got me into music in the first place. But metal came around my teenager, I think, like when I was 14, and that was a my desk mate in the first year of high school that got me to Metallica with first specifically the first album, Kill 'Em All, and that was my very first approach to metal, to any form of metal. Uh, sure, I've heard something before that, all some new metal bands, which at time new metal was really popular. But I think Metallica was the first metal band that I got deeper into, and then after that, other friends, specifically a friend of mine, he got me to more like groovy new metal bands like Korn, Slipknot, uh, Static X, Cold Chamber, so on and so on. So uh, that was my very first start, where I got more and more passionate for the genre.
Yeah. And kind of like was doing my research on you before this interview. I believe your first band was, of course, Dead Channel. And what I found out is like you formed in 2008, which I was surprised that you all have been around that long. So tell me about like starting up that band and how did you get to know everybody in the band at the time?
Well, that channel was my first band as a vocalist because when I started, shortly after when I started being, singing, uh, I of course I wanted to put up a band because I'm primarily a drummer and a percussionist, so I play a lot of genres, not just metal. Uh, but there was a time in my life where it was probably 18, 19, somewhere around there, and I really felt the need to write lyrics and learn how to scream because I felt that the art of screaming and metal in general and being metal vocalist could help me to vent some of the negative thoughts and things that I was going through at time. So at first it wasn't really just because I loved sing metal and I wanted to sing metal, but it was more like a therapy kind of thing. I needed a fucking how do you say, explosive and effective therapy, and that worked. So I started to listen to my favorite bands and started with that from Cold Chamber, Devil Driver. That was my first uh that was the first metal vocalist that inspired me to start screaming. So I was trying to replicate his sound. And then of course, Corey Taylor, Jonathan Davis, and a lot of other bands, whose singers inspire me in their style, like Mudvayne's Pine Shank, Static X, and of course Fear Factory later on.
Yeah.
And so yeah, but I mean, 2008 was the time where I started. Actually, 2007, I started writing my own music. I didn't have a guitar yet, so I would just use like cheap MIDI guitars to write music. Just it was just a joke back then. It was just having fun. And vent some negative emotions. It was all stuck in my computer in my home studio, and that was the very start of it. But then the year later in 2008, I decided to put up a band because a few guys listened to it and it was like, dude, this is no joke. This is fucking cool. Let's put out a band. So re-recorded all those songs with real guitar, and that was the time where I learned to play a little bit of guitar, simple chuggy stuff, which was what I was into, like simple down tune chuggy stuff. And so I got my first cheap $50 guitar, secondhand guitar. It was a crap 6 strings tuned down to A with bass strings on it. It was
Wow.
really tricky. And then later on, I got Ibanez 7 string, but yeah, that was the very start. So that channel was born as a band that uh, it was a lot like Nine Inch Nail kind of thing, where one guy does everything in the studio, one crazy guy, with ideas and shit, just writing riffs and programming drums, of course being a drummer, that helped me doing it quick with pad controller stuff like that. And I think I had a cheap bass in my house, so I track bass as well. I do synthesizer. I did pretty much everything. So that channel has always been like a one-man band and studio, but live, of course, I had a band, and the lineup has changed during the years. So we're still active, even though, of course, with Fear Factory right now, that's my priority. But we did one show in Rome this summer when I got back, so we tried to stay active, even though it's much slower, but you know so yeah, that's my very first. I think the only one band aside Fear Factory that I ever had as a vocalist. So
Yeah, yeah, and I know you did that, drop that self-titled album in March of 2020. Tell me about that.
yeah, I mean, that channel album was uploaded in 2017. Those songs were chosen by 4 independent released albums that I recorded in respectively 2009, 2010, 2011, and 2012. So each year has got a different album, and they were the production was so cheap. It was just me, my bedroom studio. It was really just a freak from Rome doing weird shit in his bedroom and putting it out on the internet, and but then when things got a little bit more serious, I decided to pick up the best songs, what I thought were the best songs from those 4 albums, and re-record them. So that's when I went to my good friend Marco from Harvard Penance, and he's got a great studio here in Rome, and we recorded guitars, and I did pretty much everything else in my new studio, which at the time I had a new studio. I currently work as an engineer in a studio as well. So, but Marco has shit tons of cabs and guitar amps and stuff. So I needed that guitar sound quality, So and then those songs, once we re-recorded all I re-recorded all songs, vocals and everything. I changed something in the arrangement here and there, uh and that those songs would have formed a new Dead Channel album, which was self-titled. So that's not those are not like unedited songs, like brand new, because they're just re-recorded versions of those old songs,
Yeah, make them more refined.
yeah. So
Right. And then, of course, you also played with the Skill Gear. You also played guitar in that band. Tell me about like that. I don't think nobody's ever really talks about that.
yeah, well, Skill Gear is a band. Hold on, I'm gonna get the phone to my car speaker, so hopefully you're gonna hear better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, way better. So Skill Gear is a band that started. My good friend Marco, his artist name is Marco Ronin, and he's a very good Italian rapper. He lives in my hometown here in Ostia, in a seaside of Rome. And we've been knowing each other since 2010, maybe if not earlier than that. And around that time, I got my 7 string guitar, and we were trying to experiment. So the term Skill Gear, we came up with that band name back in 2000, maybe 2011. and we're experimenting with something, but then it didn't work out. You know, whatever, just just didn't last that long for a bunch of reasons. But uh, then we didn't keep in contact for a long time. Then we met again in 2018, and I checked out some of his new rap songs, and I was blown away because he's really, I'm a in that if you check out that channel, I love to experiment a lot with groove and my vocals, not necessarily rap, but you know, I'm a percussionist too, so I love rappers that have a lot of rhythmic creativity, especially here in Italy. A lot of rappers are, they stick to that flow, to that, comfort zone, da 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 da. They don't stray away from that. Unfortunately, of course, in America, it's totally different because that's a real rap. But I always felt like in Italy, rappers were missing that rhythmic creativity, and I believe that Marco has that creativity. So I was like, dude, you improved a lot. I was checking those songs he released back then in 2018. And I'm like, why don't we try to uh, uh, put up that Skill Gear band that we were talking about years ago? And he's like, let's fucking do that. Studio, and put out the first album, and we played a bunch of shows in Rome, and we were doing great actually. We're trying to play outside of Rome because we pretty much sing in Italian, so it's pretty much an Italian oriented band. We aim pretty much to the Italian market most of all. Of course, we love to play abroad, but it's mostly Italian rap with some. I do some clean vocals and some scream, sometimes in English too, sometimes in Italian.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think non-Italian people could enjoy it as well. But we were, of course, we wanted to start from the Italian rap metal/metal market first. But we could play just in Rome because when things were going good for us, all independent, selling producing and selling our own CDs, Marco did a lot of online promotion and stuff. He was doing a lot of great job in that way. But we got pretty much killed by COVID, and that's where things pretty much got stuck for Skill Gear. And of course, during COVID, I got contacted by Dino for Fear Factory, and that's where, of course, I could still play a couple live shows in Rome with Skill Gear the next year in 2021. But, of course, then I had to fly to LA for the audition and blah, blah, blah. So that band got stuck again.
Yeah.
So
would you ever consider doing like new stuff with them, or is your just main focus is like with Fear Factory?
I mean, of course, Fear Factory has a priority for obvious reason. But I do want to keep moving on with my own bands because, even though Dino told me that for future new music, he allowed me to take part in the writing process, which I'm really happy about because that's really an honor for me. But it's still Fear Factory, so Dino is the mastermind, and I'll have to bring Fear Factory ideas, so it's a specific sound, you can stray away from that too much, so I still want to have my other creative spaces, even though they're not as big as Fear Factory, of course, but still. Every time I go back to Rome, I try, to write, new stuff for my bands, or try to do something for my bands as well, because that's my that's the artistic space where you can fully see not just my vocal ability or playing ability, but my music writing ability most of all. So and I need that space, So we have a new upcoming album with Skill Gear that we're discussing with Marco if we want to put out maybe before I go back to LA for the next tour of Machine Head. It's a great album. We're really proud about it because you know, musically has a lot of Fear Factory stuff. Few Fear Factory inspired riffs. Of course, as a guitar player, I'm a lot inspired by Dino, and and it's cool because it's not the typical rap metal thing you can think of. Like the '90s rap metal. It's really, I don't want to say genty because it's really simple. It's not too progressive, but I tuned down in F sharp, and Marco raps so fast. It had some syncopated raps, and sometimes we lock with the rap rhythms with and guitars and double bass. We do a lot of lock rhythms all together because his rhythmic style inspires a lot of drum grooves or a lot of guitar riffs. So there's a lot of melody, a lot of cool arrangements. So I can't wait to put it out. I think Fear Factory fans will like it. If they don't mind rap, they will like it because it's heavy.
Yeah.
But he has a lot of melody too. It has melodic moments, but it has heaviness as well. So we'll probably put this new album out around. We're talking about it probably half January, or it's coming out. It's coming out in a few times. So
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And there's also another great Italian rap metal band you should check out called Fortitude. They actually did a cover of Worldwide Choppers by Tech Nine. I think that's really interesting.
That was my band as a drummer. You know that.
Oh, really? Shit, I listened to that like years ago, and I was like, I never knew that was you.
I am the drummer with I had blue spiky hair at time. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I didn't even realize that was you. I was like, damn.
Yeah, that was funny band that I had. I mean, a fun band. Was a lot of fun that I had probably almost 10 years ago. Yeah, it was fun.
Nice.
Uh,
And of course, like you've mentioned, like with Skill Gear and of course with Dead Channel, you play like different instruments. Like you're kind of like a multi-instrumentalist. Do you feel like you like express yourself like creatively depending on like what instrument that you're playing with?
uh, well, yeah. I mean, of course, each instrument can give a different flavor, like a different emotional flavor. So of course, I still feel like my heart, it's a drummer's heart. It's a percussionist drummer's heart. I still tap everything that I can reach with my hands. Always making grooves with my hands. Sometimes I annoy the shit out of people around me because I'm always playing and creating rhythms with everything I can reach. But with Skill Gear, and specifically with that channel, so before Skill Gear, at first started playing guitar. Of course, my dad is a guitar player, so that helped also because I was always surrounded by guitars. He's more like a blues guy. Blues, some jazz, bossa nova. All those American finger style, like David Crosby. All that style. But he had an electric guitar, and it was a Stratocaster, because he doesn't mind some electric blues, right? And I remember when I first got into some Cold Chamber, some Fear Factory, Korn, and I was trying to play some stuff in B, so I took his Telecaster and I dropped it down to B, and I still sounded good though. And but that was at first, it was born just for the need that I had to re-record that channel songs back in 2008, because at first they were done with MIDI guitars. So the first that channel albums, those that I re-recorded later on, the bedroom albums, I used that $50 crap guitar to record them. So I was trying to teach myself how to play guitar, and I was playing along to a lot of Fear Factory records, which at time that was the time where I was getting obsessed with the band.
Yeah, little would you know.
Yeah. And so playing guitar at first was more like a, let's say, a need, to re-record those things. But then I ended up writing new riffs, not just re-recording the previous parts, but writing new stuff. And then that's when in 2011 me and Marco from started thinking about Skill Gear. Maybe I can put up a band where I play guitar, because I read a lot of riffs, and I would love to play those riffs live as a guitar player. So to answer your question, yeah, I mean, every instrument has a different aspect, and brings up a different part of yourself, like, so playing guitar for me was a need, because it brings out more like a, I think, more like an artistic side of myself. I like to do a lot of crazy shit, to scrape the rhythmically scrape the pick on the strings, and create weird noises with the guitar. I never studied solos, stuff like that. I always liked guitar players that use the guitar in a non-conventional way, like Dino. So yeah, I think for me, playing guitar is more like an artistic, my artistic personality. Drums for me, has always been more like my technical aspect. I was raised by my parents, like, this kid is really great. It was more like an enfant prodige. Like 12 years old, I could play pretty well. So and I still enjoy playing drums, but it's more like a, how do you say, self uh fulfilling thing. I know I have talent in that. So of course I studied, and I cultivated my talent, but it's more like it's artistic, but it's also a lot technical. I don't feel technical in the guitar. It's the same thing with singing. Both guitar and singing for me are less of a hyper technical thing, and more like a artistic. I just want to experiment with sounds, and come up with my own art. And that's the same thing that I love doing with vocals. That's where
Ready? Could you
that's
hold on one sec?
yep. So yeah, basically that's how I started experimenting with my vocals. Even before starting studying like clean vocals, metal vocals, and wanted to be a vocalist in the first place. I was experimenting with throat singing. I don't know if you know about it. It's a Asian technique. There are several countries that have different techniques, like the Mongolian throat singing. It's also called overtone singing, because it's a technique where you sing just one note, but then with some tongue tunnels and vowel shaping, you learn how to emphasize overtones, and it's really, really good. I was experimenting with that when I was like 15, 16. So I that was my really first experience as I don't want to say vocalist, but my first experience experimenting with vocals, for sure. So and I think that's the spirit of a band like Fear Factory, because vocals are such unique, and Burton C. Bell was really, back then, was experimenting with his vocals like nobody else was doing back then.
Yeah.
And he created his style, and that innovation and creativity suited me a lot. I felt close to that. Like I want to be that, because I always like such creativity. Same thing with the guitar. The way Dino wrote riffs and created a style. And so I always liked bands that had that creativity to it.
Yeah. And then of course you eventually joined Fear Factory. So of course you were the fan. Like, do you ever remember the first time you saw Fear Factory live, and then eventually you'd be like, one day I'm gonna sing for that band?
I do remember it. Well, I didn't think that, because of course, as I always say, until the very day that Dino asked me if I wanted to audition for Fear Factory, until that day, I never ever even thought about singing for Fear Factory, because that, for me, that was way too far. That my expectations were pretty much like succeeding. I mean, whatever you may say, like I don't know, succeeding in any way possible with my bands. Like, even I know we were in an age and time where metal is not as popular in the 2000s, and records don't sell anymore. So the more I grew up, the more I knew that I couldn't aim so far with my bands, like like becoming the new Slipknot or stuff like that. I was, like we say in Italian, flying pretty low. Like, but maybe I still had some expectation with my bands, like Dead Channels, Kilo Gear, like maybe hooking up with some record label, independent rock record label, and maybe do some tours in the nearby, maybe in Europe, just and make a decent living out of it. That was my expectation. But Fear Factory, singing for Fear Factory, was way above, and never even looked that up. And but that being said, the first time was 2010 during the Mechanized tour, because unfortunately I discovered Fear Factory a little bit late, but still, the moment I discovered them, I checked out the whole discography. I was so obsessed. I knew all the lyrics. I sang the songs every day in my car, or play those songs in my earphones, going with the train in the center of Rome, and so I was so obsessed that when they announced they will have played in Bologna in North Italy, I was like, fuck, I'm gonna be there. And cool story, funny story is that me and the Dead Channel drummer at the time, we went seeing Fear Factory for the first time, and they were in Bologna, which is North Italy, and we were so desperate that we threw demos on their stage. And I remember Dino was playing, and it turned to his tech and was like, pick it up, where he was playing. And that was funny, because then 2 years later, that time after the show, I was lucky enough to meet Gene Hoglan, which was really nice, and I could give him my demo. And 2 years later, I could meet Dino, because they played in Rome. So and bands rarely, when they tour Europe, they rarely take care of the center of Italy, like Rome, or even far more in the south, because there's not a huge metal market. So I couldn't believe it. I was there, and it was an awesome show, and it was so cathartic, And after the show, I could meet Dino and Bert, and you can find pictures of me with both of them. And I gave my demo directly to Dino, and and that was an awesome experience. But yeah, the first time, I didn't necessarily went like, I wanna sing for this band, because like I've said, it was beyond my expectation. I was like, I wasn't even I didn't even dare to hope for that, But I was like, this singer has something. Even though that was the era when Bert's voice started deteriorating, unfortunately. And I knew that, but I checked all his old videos during the obsolete manufacturer era, when he was singing, not always, but some, he had some bad nights, some good nights. But back then, he had some good nights also. And when he had good nights, he was singing great, and even though he wasn't in his best shape back then in 2010, the way he was, his charisma, the way he was singing on stage, the moves, everything about him, just intrigued me. I was like, I want to be like this guy, And but I didn't mean I want to be this guy, like singing in his band, which is ironic. It's funny, Fast forward 13 years later, here I am, But
yeah. Yeah, so I think they were like doing like auditions. Like I was watching y'all on the Garza podcast, and they had like hundreds and hundreds of auditions, and I guess somehow like Dino saw you and be like, that's the one.
Yeah, well, actually, the thing is, as you probably know, Fear Factory were held down with a legal suit back then, and
Yeah.
they've been held down from, I think it was from 2017 to 2020, and so it was 4/5 years of being held down with a legal suit. You couldn't use the name because they couldn't use social media, so the band was frozen pretty much. And Dino was thinking in that era, in that moment, 2020, was maybe thinking about doing a solo project, because of course when you're a professional musician, touring musician, you don't have an income if your band can tour, so he was like, okay, maybe I can put up my solo project. So he started, and they were still going through legal suits, so he started to looking around everywhere in the world, and that's when he contacted me. And at first it was so mysterious, I didn't know what was going on, what deal was. And but I was so happy that he contacted me. I mean, you can imagine, right? I mean, he is my hero, and so he asked me to do a bunch of more covers. He was sending me instrumentals, and I was like, this sounds like an audition pretty much, uh and and then later on, I was like, so what's going on? And he's like, yeah, I'm trying to put up a solo project because I can't tour with Fear Factory, and I need a singer. So that's why I'm auditioning you. And I'm like, wow, that's fucking good. That was super amazing already, to being auditioned by Dino Casares for his solo project. But even at that point, the thought of the possibility of aiming even further and singing for Fear Factory was out of question. It's like, and I remember my dad told me maybe he's auditioning you for Fear Factory. I'm like, it's impossible, which is funny because that was an option, because Dino was like, okay, he told me he wanted to do the solo project, but if things worked out in the legal shoot, then the guy, would have been used for Fear Factory. So when Bird left in September 2020, so first of all, Dino got all the rights back and could buy the name back in June or July 2020, somewhere around there. And Bird left the band in September 2020. And probably few days after Bird announced the departure from the band, Dino contacted me and it's like, so right now I'm gonna need to do auditions for the Fear Factory vocalist spot. Do you still want to try? And I was blown away. I didn't see it coming. I was like, whoa, this is way more huge than what I expected. And I'm like, fuck yeah. I was enthusiastic, but at the same time was like, can I, do I measure up to it? Can I do it? Being a Fear Factory vocalist, oh my god, that's crazy. uh but yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how things worked out.
Yeah,
So
and were you kind of like nervous like joining the band, because those are like big shoes to fill after Bert? And that's because anytime when bands like change singers, there's always that thing of like, will it work or won't it work? Because I remember, like, and I always say this a bunch with like the Maiden, when they got Bruce Dickinson in the band, people were used to Paul Di'Anno, but then they put out Number the Beast, and it's still one of the best metal albums of all time.
exactly. Yeah, and you have plenty of examples. You have like AC/DC with Brian Johnson. You have Journey. I I knew the band and I knew the songs, but I didn't know the story about Journey until Dino told me. He told me the very first day of our audition. He was like, the band Journey? I'm like, you probably heard of them. How can you not know Journey? And he play me Don't Stop Believing. I'm like, yeah, I know the song. And like, this guy, the new guy of Journey, has the same story that you're about to have. And I'm like, what do you mean? Well, you check a documentary, blah, blah. So I checked out a documentary, which is called Don't Stop Believing. And as you probably know, Journey had pretty much the same story for Fear Factory. So
No.
Steve Perry, the historical singer, quit after 25/30-ish years. And I think it was 15-ish years ago. And YouTube was barely starting. and but you could still find something on YouTube back then, and they found this guy from the Philippines, Arnel Pinada, that was singing same style of Steve Ferry, same, was singing beautiful. It was the right guy, had the same voice, the same timbre, the same vocal tone, the same technique, and they were like bingo, and the guy was homeless. It was even more touching story than mine because fortunately I'm not homeless, but still, but he was struggling not just for being like a professional musician like me. He was struggling in life, it was, he lost his mom. It was a tragic story, and those guys just pretty much picked him out and put him out of the street and made him a rock star. And still nowadays the current singer of the band, and they're still doing great. So I don't know if you know much about Journey, but it's a really cool story.
Yeah. Yeah. And so tell me about, like, I believe the first tour you did was that tour with Static X and Stax. Were you kind of like nervous, like, because nervous about how fans would like react to you being the new singer? And that was also that like your first time playing in America for Thika?
It was my first time playing in America. My first time being in or flying to America was during the audition, was November 2021. But the first time actually playing in America, yes, it was the first show, was the Static X tour, and I was really nervous, of course. It was Portland, Oregon, the Roseland, I think it's called. Uh, and it was nearly 3,000 people, which, for my standards, there are a lot. and and they were rowdy, and I could hear them even before opening the door for the venue room. It was, so it was like, oh fuck, here we go. Just, and but my mindset was like, just fucking go. You shit in your pants. I know, you just don't care. Just fucking go. It is what it is. It just you have to do it. This is what you always dreamed about, and but then as I walked on stage, all the nervousness just faded away because I've noticed that larger crowds are way better for anxiety than smaller crowds, and that's something that a lot of people told me. Like, you will see, it's going to be way easier than playing small clubs because I don't know, for some reason, and especially the fact that I'm not playing a small, a huge venue with a large crowd with my own band. I mean, I'm singing for a band that has been existing for more than 30 years, and it's very important historical band. It's a very solid fan base, so it's all pretty much set up. So as I walked on stage, I felt like all I needed to do is my own part, singing, which is something that I know how to do, singing Fear Factory songs, because it's something that I've been doing for 15 years, and everywhere in my car, just so it's something that really comes easily for me, so it was really more simple and easy than what I thought. So
Yeah. Yeah, and then of course, because me, I was kind of like nervous, kind of like saying like, "Please, please be good." And then of course, I seen like the live videos, and of course, I saw you all on the Lacuna Coil tour, and I was like, "You absolutely nailed it." So my expectations were like, "Yeah, they Dino choose the right one."
well, thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate your words.
Yeah, yeah, but tell me about like that last tour, because of course, like I mentioned before, that was my first time seeing Fear Factory live, and of course, I remember interviewing Dino before y'all's show, and I thought that was a great time, because that was funny enough. I like, because I watched y'all on the Garza podcast, so because that was Garza's podcast. That's when you were on, was like the 100th episode, and funny enough, my 100th interview was with Dino over Zoom over a year ago. So it's kind of
Okay.
funny because me how it all turns out, because me being a Fear Factory fan, and of course nailing like the old songs such as like Lynchpin, Edge Crusher, Sure Replica. Like, I definitely feel like a lot of people say that you do sound like Burton almost, but you have like your own kind of like spin on it.
Yeah, I mean, either if they mean it in a good or in a bad way, for me it's a compliment, because first of all, Bert's my idol, and I love him, and I love his artistic job and legacy, as a vocalist, and second, I'm singing for a band that it's iconic, and everything in Fear Factory sound, guitar, vocals, the synthesizer, the drums, the bass, everything is iconic. If you could listen to Fear Factory stems, the separated tracks, that's the Fear Factory guitar. That's Fear Factory vocals. Everything is so iconic about Fear Factory, and I think, and Dino thinks also, that if you need to replace such an iconic singer, you have to nail the style, So it's not that I want to sound like Bert just because I like Bert and I want to, like some people say in a more like hateful way, being a Bert copycat, which to me is still a compliment, by the way.
Yeah,
but
you gotta be like, fuck the haters.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. They miss him, and I get it, But it is what it is, There are people that enjoy having Fear Factory moving on with a new guy, So just you cannot like it. That's okay, but just but whatever. The thing is not that I want to be Bert copycat, but it's a matter of nailing the style. It's like if you if you came to filling in for, let's say, for Dino, for such an iconic guitar tone and playing style, you of course you're going to use his sound, his guitar, his pickups. You want to create that tone. And same thing goes with vocals. You want to. Yeah, I actually went through. Dino was sending me acapellas during the audition process. He sent me acapellas from Resurrection and Timelessness, and he's like, I'm gonna send you acapellas, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. What am I supposed to do with them? And he was like, just listen and study his style, because of course, he started to hit me up because he noticed that I have studied his style, but he wanted me to study even more. Like you have to nail it, not just sounding like him, but having his nuances, his leaks. Bert has a lot of leaks, a lot of typical Bert leaks, and things he did with melodies and his voice, even the slight off notes you hear in the records, that's all part of his sound. That the beauty of his vocal is that he wasn't super precise and technical, but it was true though. It had soul, and you have to nail that soul, not just with a technical aspect, but with emotional aspect. You have to feel what he's singing. That I think that's the very most hard and difficult part about singing Fear Factory. You have to sing with that passion and that soul. And and that's something that you can study as well. But that I think that's the reason why, and I'm really glad that people are saying that, but that's the reason why people are noticing this similarity with Bert's voice, because we don't have very similar voice when we talk, but we're baritones, so that of course that matters, because you want to pick up a guy that has the same vocal range, and I went through a lot. I studied surgically all his nuances and records, and with those acapellas. So I guess that's the reason why. I really study his style, because that's what I was asked to do, of course, and I think that is perfectly right and fair, because you want to pay justice to the vocal legacy of this band. You don't want to just throw a completely different vocal style. It's just, which with that channel and even those back vocals I do with Skill Gear, either scream vocals and clean vocals, you can hear all my other influences, which are Fear Factory, but also you hear a lot of Spine Shank vocals, Johnny Santos from Spine Shank, huge inspiration. A lot of Des from Cold Chamber, a lot of Wayne from Static X, a lot of Chad from Mudvayne. You hear a lot of different vocal influences. So that's the more how do you say, um, authentic, I would say, Milo Silvestro vocals. But in Fear Factory, I have to nail the style. So
Yeah.
that's the reason why.
Yeah, and of course you do well with the old songs, but I'm always curious, like what how are you gonna deal? I'm always curious, like how you're gonna deal with the new songs, and I know you kind of touched upon earlier, like what like the stats with like the new Fear Factory, because I'm ready for some new songs. You impressed me with the old songs. I want to see how you handle with new songs, and I'm ready for pre-orders. Like you deserve my money.
Well, thank you, appreciate it. And
Yeah.
and well, we've been talking with Dino about new song. Of course, fans want it and we want it, and it's gonna happen. We have laid down some scratch ideas with just riffs and Dino's riffs and programmed drums during spare time. And Dino has recorded with Damien, his producer, I think 7, 8 songs. But it's just like programmed drums and guitars on top of it, like demo guitars. And there's so it's like scratch ideas, but we have to really, yeah. Hopefully, I mean, don't quote me on that, but hopefully we we should be able, once we get back from Australia, because as you probably know, we have tour coming up with Machine Head in starting January 18th, and it's going to be USA and Canada first. Then shortly after that, it's going to be 7 shows in Australia and New Zealand. So then after that, I believe in April we will be back in Dino's home in LA, and that's probably the moment where me and him gonna have some spare time to take care of those songs and maybe keep working on those songs. And but then we have Sydney Warp Fest in April. It's just one show, but it's gonna take a few days, to drive to Vegas. Then in May we have 3 shows, at least 3 shows. Probably they're gonna be even more by that time in South America. And in June we have a bunch of festivals in Europe. So we'll probably have time to finish a single, I guess. It's all assumption right now. It's nothing sure, but we do want to finish at least one single and put out a new album by 2025. So
Yeah. So thank you, Milo, for this conversation. It was just great to be able to chat with you today. Is there just anything else you'd like to promote or any final words you want to say to the viewers that are watching this to close this out?
well, thank you, Richard, for having me. It's been a real pleasure anytime. And well, all those who are listening and watching and Fear Factory fans, I want to say thank you very much for the support. Thank you for welcoming me. At least the majority of you. Of course, you're always going to have haters, but what matters is that the majority of Fear Factory fans all around the world are welcoming me so warmly, and that matters a lot for me. That's my life. So thank you very, very much. I owe you everything. And thank you for welcoming this new era of Fear Factory. And all I can say is that me and Dino will work our asses off to uh deliver, putting out music that sounds like Fear Factory, and I guarantee the best Fear Factory live shows experience ever. So we're working hard. We have a tight lineup. We have Pete on drums, which is an amazing drummer, and so we're all of us working hard, and we'll work hard to keep the machine going. So can wait for more and stay tuned for more.
Hmm. Awesome. So everybody, Milo Silvestro from Fear Factory. We'll see you next time.